That's right. You are looking live. You're looking live right now at the Sports Porch, the Black and Gold edition. We are live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram.
The Gram.
Thank you for being here. You can always follow us on YouTube. I'm watching YouTube on the big picture in our studio right now. Follow us on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. And yes, this is a podcast, so you can see we are going to drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. That's exactly right. And what are we going to do here? Well, hey, look, we got a lot of shit coming up. And there's been a lot of shit going on, and we're going to talk a little bit of Steelers football and some playoff football. Hockey Jesus is in the house. We're going to talk some hockey, of course. And for those of you who watch all the time and you see our new format here, this is to help us with our TikTok clips. So go over to TikTok and subscribe to our channel on TikTok. You're going to be seeing a lot more there in the coming weeks, months, years, and decades as we move forward. Hey, is this our first show of the new year?
Sure is.
Is it? All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and yours.
Oh, thank you. Happy friggin' New Year. I've got the Grand Schwabini over here on my left. I've got Hockey Jesus on my right. I'm your technical director, and I do want to remind you also, if you can't watch the stream, you can always listen to the stream live on Radio PGH at radiopgh.com, or that link to the stream that I just put in the comments down there. We got a lot to talk about, guys. Let's go real quick to the loss to the Bengals, the good, bad, and the ugly. I get a feeling that we all have the same ugly, but I want to find out. And let's start with you, Grand Schwabini. Let's start with the good from the Bengals loss. Was there any good at all? Wait a minute. OC is in the house. OC on Instagram. I don't get those comments in this software, so I have to pay attention to my other screen. Heard a theory. When Tomlin reaches the point in the season where he'll have a winning record, things go on cruise control. I'm sure we'll get to that, OC. Thanks for being here. Anyway, good from the Bengals loss. Was there any?
The good. Keanu Benton had a nice stop.
Yeah.
On a critical play.
Okay. That was it? That was it?
Oh, man. That's brutal. That's it? That's all you got, Schwabi?
All right. Hockey Jesus.
That's all I got, yeah.
Hockey Jesus. Any good from the Bengals loss at all?
I mean, you got Freiermuth, your number one wide receiver again. You Freiermuth fans out there got to be just loving this 2 weeks in a row where he seems to be the only guy who likes to catch the ball, except for on the last play.
Right.
Right in his hands.
If I'm going to, and Jeff Paulus in the house. Hey, Jeff, it was good that I didn't drive out to the game. Yeah, you're right. I saw some good in that game. And the good that I saw was our defense. Our defense held the Bengals to 19 points. Joe Burrow having a career year. Jamar Chase going to win the Triple Crown. I mean, they were an unstoppable offense this year. Their defense was terrible. They lost a lot of games by one score or 1 point. And our defense did exactly, and they intercepted him. They did exactly what they should do. They held the Bengals to 19 points. If you would have told me before this game that the Steelers were going to hold the Bengals to 19 points, I would have said they're going to win, because I would have figured we can put 21 on the board, and we couldn't do that. So I think the good, there was some good. It was the defense. The bad, Grand Schwabini.
I guess I'll go Russell Wilson on the bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, he's, and it's not all his fault. I mean, you can put it on the offensive line. You can put it on receivers dropping balls. You can put it on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I guess I'll put it on him most simply because, he's here to be the difference maker. He's here to be the guy where, if the defense plays well enough, he's supposed to be able to get you those couple of scores so that you win games like this. And for one reason or another, he wasn't able to do it with what he was given.
Okay, that was your bad. HJ?
I mean, this is really simple. The offensive play calling was horrendous. I don't understand how you can go to Cincinnati 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and put up, 525 yards and not use the same damn playbook. I mean, it doesn't make any
Right.
sense to
Yeah.
me that they decided they were the smarter team and they figured if they could run and play ball control that would work. Oh, and not only didn't it work, the Bengals had the ball for 15 more minutes than the Steelers did. 15 more minutes. That's a whole friggin' quarter more than the Steelers had it for. And it's no wonder why the defense, had such a hard time out there, catching their breath because they were always on the field. I just can't believe that either Tomlin or Arthur Smith or whoever's doing the damn play calling thought that was a good idea. That's, to me, that's just a bad 100%.
For me, I mean, the bad for me was the offensive line. And that the regression, Dan Moore looks terrible. Broderick Jones doesn't look like he knows how to block anybody anymore. I know, Zach Frazier playing well, and he is. I just think that is the main reason. Now, I'm not an apologist for Russell Wilson at all. But Russell Wilson on just about every play is running for his life. And yeah, I mean, and he's, look, Patrick Mahomes on every play is running for his life, but he's got a purpose. Russell Wilson needs to have a little bit of protection so he can set up. And we don't even have to go into right now at the lack of weapons because we're going to get there. So my bad was the offensive line. Let's move to ugly, Grand Schwabini. What was the ugliest part of this loss for you?
Couldn't get any uglier than George Pickens.
Yeah.
I mean, whether he was dropping the ball, I mean, geez, he has strong hands, but he didn't show strong hands this weekend.
No.
And combination, looking miserable, dropping balls, just not contributing at all. I think he had one catch for 0 yards, something like that. I mean,
yeah, which is crazy. I mean, they should at least give him a yard.
You can't have that out of your top receiver. It was a bad game for him.
Yeah, ugly. HJ.
Well, as much as that is true, George Pickens definitely was ugly. I have an uglier, and his name is Coach T.
Ooh.
I mean, come on. Think about the mistakes this guy has made. First of all, let's talk about the end of the second quarter. Why are you going for it when the ball's on your 37-yard line and all you have to do is punt it away? He said the reason he did it was because he didn't want them to have the ball back and they had 3 timeouts. Well, guess what? They got the ball back and it was on the 37-yard line instead of the 10 or the 15. That's ridiculous. And then on top of that, his inability to know how to coach this team when the game is on the line, he just has no clue. Like, if you look at him, half the game, it looked like he was ready to cry, and the other half, he had no idea how to change things up to do things differently. The guy is just incapable of doing it at this point in his career, and it's sad to watch. It really is. And so by far, Coach T gets the ugly.
Okay. Grace on Facebook says, for some reason, I always knew we would have trouble with Wilson. The Steelers are made from heroes. We haven't had a hero for a while.
She ain't wrong there.
Yeah, no, she's not wrong there. You're right. My ugly was, it was really hard to come up with an ugly on this one because there was just so much that was ugly about it. But at the end of the day, I have to go with the Grand Schwabini on this, George Pickens. Like, we could talk about the play calling, And we could talk about Russell Wilson. I will say that the ugliest look was from Mike Tomlin, because every time they showed him on the side, I knew 5 minutes into the game when they showed him on the sidelines, it was like, this game's over. He doesn't even look like he's there,
Right.
Which I thought was strange, but I digress on that. I've been saying this for 2 years. HJ has vehemently disagreed with me. The local Pittsburgh media has vehemently disagreed with me for the most part. And I've been calling it out. I'm more right about this than I was about Najee Harris. Even though I said Najee Harris is not the back for this team, everybody's going to hold up the statistics that he's run for 1,000 yards for 4 straight seasons, and he's the only back to do that in the last 4 years. What I say is, who cares? How big were those runs? Did any of them really make a difference? And the answer is no. When it comes to George Pickens, not the guy, not a great receiver, horrible for the team, terrible attitude. I have never taken away from the fact that he has great skills. Okay. There's a lot of players that have played in the NFL that have had great skills. As a matter of fact, in order to be drafted in the NFL in the first 3 rounds, you have to have some sort of great skill. Pickens is a loser, period. End of story. The getting in a verbal fight with a fan after the game, for what? For what? You got 1 catch for 0 yards. You're not running the routes the way you're supposed to. When somebody asks you whether or not you and your quarterback are on the same page, you get up and you walk away from the podium like a baby. And when that same quarterback is asked the same question, what does he do? He says, I believe in George more than anybody else, and he has nothing but great things to say. That's called he's trying to lift you up and teach you a lesson. I say, get the hell on the bus, get out of town. And I don't care. Look, I don't care if he comes into the Ravens game next week and catches 11 for 160, 2 scores, and they win. Great. Okay. What's going to happen the next game when he doesn't get the passes that he wants? What's going to happen the next game when a reporter asks a question he doesn't like? Listen, man, win something, prove something, and then start acting like a diva. You're not a diva. You're an idiot, period. You don't belong in the NFL. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I haven't wavered from it, and I'm not going to waver from it. That's the way it is. And that's why he's the ugly. George Pickens has been the ugly on this team all year long. All of the problems on offense have been centered around George Pickens. Okay. Oh, George isn't playing. He tweaked a hamstring. Oh, that's why our offense sucks. Oh, George came back. He still can't catch a ball. Oh, George is throwing a fit. He doesn't want to look at HJ. All right, H, I'm done. My rant is over for now. But we need an overhaul. Now, it does stretch to, maybe it's not over. It does stretch to, I agree with the Tomlin analysis you have, HJ. I agree with the Arthur Smith play calling, but Arthur Smith does not have the right tools to call any kind of offense. And Russell Wilson doesn't have an offensive line or a running back he can depend on, and he doesn't have any receivers. So we got a huge problem. So anyway, HJ, go ahead. What was? Did we do your ugly? Did we? I forget where the hell we are.
Yeah, we did my ugly.
Okay.
And there's one ugly I'd like to add. TJ Watt, by the way, didn't even make it on the stat sheet for this game. No tackles, no sacks, no fumble recoveries, nothing. Didn't even make it on the stat sheet. So that's pretty ugly for a guy who wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. But regarding your thoughts on Pickens, I don't have a problem with what you're saying about Pickens being an asshole and not being an elite receiver when he thinks he is. I agree with you there. However, if you look at when the Steelers were playing well, it was because the offensive line was able to give Russell Wilson enough time to throw the moon ball and to throw it downfield to George Pickens
and Mike Williams
and others. That's right. And others. But he was the reason why those other guys were open, because guys were trying to stop him from doing it. So that's why I shake my head in a negative way when you start talking about George Pickens not being in the NFL. Come on. There are plenty of other garbage guys out there. And let me remind you, because I did this, I had to go back and look. Do you remember James Washington?
Yes.
He was a number 2 pick. He's much worse than George Pickens. How about Claypool? He was a number 2 pick. Was he better? Was he worse than George Pickens? I think so. How about Deontay Johnson? He was a 3rd round pick, but still, he's garbage. He's not really in the league anymore. So, I mean, you can say that Pickens doesn't belong in the league, but those other 3 guys are 10 times worse than George Pickens. And maybe Deontay Johnson had some better years in other places, but these guys were just as bad of a headache. And your problem, and I'm going to say this forever, your problem is not with George Pickens and his talent. Your problem is with the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers' inability to get out of the 1980s, stop running a damn ball, start throwing it, start drafting offensive players who know how to play this game in the 21st century. And that's what the Steelers lack. And that starts from the owners to the head coach and the player personnel. I like the fact that Con and extras are trying to do something about the offensive line, but next year, let's face it, and we'll talk about this in the postseason a lot. They're going to have to do something about these splash positions because they're in big trouble next year if they don't.
Marvin Hamilton is back in the house. Good evening. Hey, what's up, Marvin? My friend Jeff says, is this a name? Lima Swede?
Yeah. Limas. Yeah. Limas Swede. He's going to the way back there. I only am going back to the heyday from the 2018 season.
Gotcha.
When we after we made it to the AFC Championship.
Gotcha.
I can't go back that far because then we are just going.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Way too many more.
It's a rabbit hole. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Steve. My problem in general, overall, you're exactly right. The Steelers, they need to move it a little further along in the 20th century or 21st century here. Just a little. Let's get there.
Well,
go ahead,
the problem that I see, which I think ties into what you're both saying, is it's really just a lack of talent issue. I think what happens with the Steelers is, and this might be a little contrary to your guys' frustration with the coaching, but I think that Tomlin has shown to be a good NFL head coach. Arthur Smith has been a good offensive coordinator. I don't know if Terrell Austin even does anything, but we'll just lump him in with Tomlin for defense.
Yeah.
But but the bottom line is they're good coaches. And so what good coaches do is they get the best out of the talent that they have. That's why the Steelers surprise you. And they consistently beat the teams that are average, maybe even a little above average.
Mm-hmm.
They consistently beat them. They roll up a good 10-3 record, and then they have you believing. But what's really been missing, in these games against the better teams in the league is just the talent. There's nobody at receiver outside of George Pickens. Forget about his problems. There's nobody else. I mean, look, your running backs, Warren and Najee, not bad, but they're not special.
No.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Tight end, not bad, but not special. Right? I mean, that's what they're missing. They're missing special, talented players at the elite splash positions.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, there's really not going to be much that the coaching can do, until those positions improve.
Yes. And when is that going to happen? We don't know. I do have a comment here from official Chris Chada OC on Instagram. He's got a question for us. I'm going to put that up so everybody can see it. So with these last 4 weeks, where are the Steelers in terms of the quarterback position? Do they jettison both guys and start over? Or is that reactionary? I'm going to say I think we wait and see what happens in the playoffs. There's a lot of speculation, but the bottom line is this. They're not going to draft a quarterback. I mean, maybe they do, but there's nobody they can draft. They're going to end up in the bottom half of every round, the first round being the critical one. Aaron Rodgers may or may not want to play again, and we don't want him, and neither do the Steelers. Kirk Cousins may or may not be in Atlanta, and he would be another Band-Aid a la Russell Wilson. They're basically the same age. Who else?
Sam Darnold will be out there.
Maybe.
Might be.
Maybe, but at the same time, look, he goes to a system in Minnesota where he fits, and they have an offensive-minded head coach. Are the Steelers where quarterbacks go to die now? Now I'm not ready to say that, but this is certainly not the type of system that Sam Darnold would flourish in. I think, personally, if I'm going to front run this a little bit, I think you bring Russell Wilson back, because Justin Fields has had, I heard this stat on the radio the other day that, they say there's about 25, you grade quarterbacks once they've had about 25 full starts in the NFL, you kind of know what you got. And Justin Fields has had a lot more than 25 starts. So I think as a backup and an option, not bad, but I'm not re-signing him unless I absolutely have to. And if Russell Wilson doesn't want to stay, I'm front running it, but I bring Wilson back. I find us a running back and a good wide receiver, and we reboot. I mean, what the hell else are they going to do? They're not going to fire Tomlin, and they're sure as hell not going to hire another offensive coordinator.
No.
So, anyway, I don't know if you guys want to address that at all, or if it's even worth addressing at this point until after the playoffs for us to have a full discussion on it.
Well, I mean, what I would say is, obviously, you sort of have to let the playoffs play out.
Right.
If the Steelers were to win a playoff game, which I think is highly unlikely, but if they were, then it's obvious that you bring Russell Wilson back.
Right.
If they don't, I think probably what's most likely is the Steelers will bring him back. Because you don't want to start over again, back-to-back years. You want to have some continuity, maybe with a full season in the system, that type of thing. However, to be completely honest, if I'm the Steelers, but I'm just, I'm more of a gambler, and I know the Steelers don't play this way. But if I'm them, I try to make a trade up, into the top of the first round, if there's a quarterback I like. Think of maybe like a team that probably has a top 10 pick, but doesn't need a quarterback. Like, for example, like Carolina.
Right.
Maybe give them George Pickens to help out Bryce Young down there, and, 2 first-round picks or something. If there's a guy you like, go get him. I kind of look at it like that. I don't think the Steelers would ever do anything like that, but that's kind of the direction I would go.
Yeah, I don't really want to address the Russell Wilson position, but OC asked about Tomlin tanking once, they got to, 500 was safe, or they were going to make the playoffs. I actually looked into this because I was curious to see if that's actually true or not. So what I did was I went back and I looked, beginning with the 2017 season. This is the season after they went to the AFC Championship, and this is to me the beginning of the end of what Tomlin had going on, and he hasn't been able to get out of his funk yet. So in 2017, they lost to Jacksonville in the first round of the playoffs. 2018 and 19, they didn't make the playoffs. In 2020, they lost to the Browns in the first round of the playoffs, 48-37. The next year, they lost at Kansas City, 42-21. A couple years ago, they didn't make the playoffs, and everybody knows last year they lost to the Bills, 31-17. How they got there was really interesting. Their record, and this is what I want to get to. Their record when the 500 record was safe, when they were going to make it to 500, in those seasons they were 8-16. 8-16. That was their record once they realized that the 500 record was safe. And when the Steelers needed to win so that Tomlin could preserve his 500, to have a winning record, they went 9-0. So it just goes to show you that it's absolutely true that the Steelers play for Mike Tomlin to keep his record of 500. Once they get it, they freaking tank, and they no longer care about the Super Bowl. I have one other thing. Tomlin has only won playoff games in 4 of his 18 seasons.
Right.
4 of his 18 seasons. And yet we keep this guy around. I just wonder when Steeler fans are going to say, Mike, Coach T, it's time to retire. Like Coach Noel knew it was time to retire when he couldn't make the Super Bowl for 12 years. This is Tomlin's 14th year in a row without making the frickin' Super Bowl. When is he going to get the memo that he doesn't have it anymore? Somebody needs to wake him up and tell him it's time to cash it in. It's time to stop coaching. You don't have it anymore, Coach T. I'm sorry, but it's time to move on.
So,
hey, one positive note. I do want to go back and change my good. Cam Hayward had a hell of a game.
Yeah,
and I forgot about that. I forgot about that because of how bad it was as a whole.
Yeah,
he knocked down like 4 passes.
He did, man. Yeah. He was everywhere.
Well, and that's why my good was the defense. I mean, I know TJ Watt wasn't on the stat sheet, but overall the defense played really well. The line played well. Even with Jamar Chase out there, they held him to 19 points. So, we don't want to digress on that point. Sure. But, you're absolutely right, Steve. It's time to make a change, and who knows? So my question to you is this. Let's say a miracle occurs and they run the table and Russell Wilson rides off into the sunset as a Super Bowl champion. Do you change your opinion?
Yeah, I do, because he can win a playoff game. That's all I want from Coach T. I want him to start winning. I want him to stop talking about the standard is the standard, and I want the actions to prove the standard is the standard.
Yeah. We don't want to leave meat on the bone. We want to take the meat off the bone.
That's right. we want to raise that silver trophy with that beautiful football on it.
Yes.
It's been too long since we've even been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It really has. It really has. And I am in complete agreement with you. Here on the Sports Porch Black and Gold Edition, you're watching it live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram. We got a bunch of people watching on the gram right now. Thanks for being here. And I want to remind you, please go to YouTube, subscribe on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. Our subscribers are growing. We want to grow that list. Hit the subscribe button, the notification, so you know when we're live. And you can always catch the Sports Porch Podcast if you want to catch up with us right after the show. We drop it everywhere you get your podcast, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcast. Marvin Hamilton says trade Mike Tomlin for a couple of picks. He's a good coordinator, not a great coach. Cam Hayward also played with the flu, says Amy May. Wow. How about that? Yeah. And Marvin backs that up by saying that. We did get a comment in here from somebody watching on YouTube. Randy's with us on YouTube. Thanks, Randy. Tomlin's time has passed over. You can't play in the 80s. It just doesn't work anymore. You know what?
Right on, Randy.
Obvious. Right. I think it's absolutely obvious. Let's talk about the keys this week, because
you know what though?
Go ahead.
Here's the thing, though. I'm not going to completely agree with that, though. You can play like the 80s if you have the talent to do so.
Yeah, right.
Like you can do it with Saquon Barkley. You can do it with Jahmyr Gibbs. Mm-hmm. You know, you can do it with Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Right. So you can do it. You just need better talent to do it.
Yep. Well, there is a game to play.
That's a good point.
There is a game to play this week. It is in Baltimore, the Ravens playoff game, the keys to victory. Let's talk about that right now. HJ, what are the keys to victory here?
I mean, it's pretty simple. You have
more points.
No, I'm not going to go there this week. But thanks for bringing it up.
Somebody gave us hell on TikTok for that. Did you see that comment?
Yeah, I
They're
did.
like,
I saw it.
great fucking take. Score more points. I was like, thank you for watching. So anyway,
that's why I said it, because I did see that comment. I thought it was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
No, seriously, what they have to do is they have to stop the run game, and then they have to stop Lamar Jackson. Those are two tall tasks. They've been very good at stopping Lamar Jackson in the past, and I think they know how to do that. Zay Flowers being out is a big deal, I think. That's going to help keep Lamar in check. But I don't know how you stop King Henry. I just don't. I just think he's going to be the difference maker. If you can do those two things and you can make Lamar Jackson try and do too much, he will make mistakes. That's about the only hope you have. Defense got to make a splash play. Russ can't fumble the ball again, and you get into a field goal battle, which seems like we can always win those field goal battles. It's got to be an ugly, just a slugfest. But hey, maybe it'll rain really badly, and nobody and the field will be a mess, and that will help. But other than that, it's going to be really difficult for us to get back to when we did beat them earlier in the season to that level of play. I think Baltimore's figured it out, and they just need to stick to the script. But if they get into a slugfest with us, that's our only chance.
So your key to the game is cloud seeding, right?
Yeah,
cloud seeding.
Definitely. You got to find a way to make that field impossible to run on, and slow both King Henry and Lamar Jackson down.
Yeah, maybe a little action a la Bull Durham. You want a rain out? I'll give you a rain out. Remember that scene? Grant Schwabini, what are your keys to victory here for the Steelers versus the Ravens on Saturday night?
I think here's what I think. I think no matter what, the Ravens are going to play better than the Steelers in terms of yardage. I think that the Steelers can win the game if they get 4 turnovers.
Wow.
And when I say that too, I mean 4 for 4.
Right.
Like when there's a ball on the ground, you got to get it.
Right.
You might need and include in the 4 a special teams score as well. You're going to need to, and also include in that maybe like some Justin Tucker misses, as he's had a pretty miserable year. You just need to have a lot of things go wrong for the Ravens and a lot of things go right for the Steelers. And look, I think there's a slim chance of that. I mean, I put it like a 25% chance.
That's better than slim.
It's just like a 20. I think it's
still pretty slim.
It's still pretty slim, but it's a 1 in 4 shot. I think they could win the game.
I think slim is like 10%, but basically what I'm hearing from you is it's going to take a miracle.
I mean, there are games that end up that way. There are games that end up that way. So
that is true.
It's possible. Now, another thing, one of the things that we do talk about with the splash play is that there is an element of luck involved.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will tell you is the Steelers have actually been on the downward side of that luck for quite a few weeks now.
Right.
So that luck might just be ready to turn around. Who knows?
Yeah, Jeff says make him attempt more field goals and touchdowns plus turnover margin. Yeah, I mean it's actually kind of a sad state of affairs when you're thinking like, hey, we need to make sure that they just kick field goals so we can kick field goals so we win. My key to victory here is that we're going to have the offense show up. And as much as I have maligned George Pickens over the last few games, over the last few years, listen, man, he's going to come out. He's going to have to come out and ball. So, George, this is your challenge. Prove me wrong. Come out and catch a touchdown pass. Actually, you're probably going to need to catch 2 or 3. So show us why you deserve to act like the jerk off that you've been acting like and change my mind. So there's a couple keys to the game. I agree that they have to try to stop King Henry, but I don't see that happening. As a matter of fact, the real issue that the Steelers have right now, aside from the fact that they have Derrick Henry, is that there's a guy named Likely who they seem to not be able to cover. The Ravens have two decent tight ends. Not when I say decent, I mean pretty good. On any given day. So even with Zay Flowers being out, yeah, sure, that helps a little bit. But can Patrick Queen cover Isaiah Likely? No,
you got to cover him with Minka. I mean, that's or you just play the zone, because if they're not able to run Derrick Henry up the middle, then you can drop the linebackers. There's a lot of things you can do to slow them down. It's just that will Baltimore figure it out? And can the Steelers jump out to a lead? I think that's also important. The Steelers were one of the few teams in the NFL who didn't have an opening drive touchdown the whole friggin' season.
I know, that's crazy.
How about if we come out and drive down the field the very first time and give our defense a 7-point lead? That could change the tone of the game, because remember, we're 3-1 against Baltimore in playoff games. They might start thinking, "Oh shit, this is Pittsburgh and they're going to do it to us again."
Yeah.
When that negative starts to build in, that could also be a recipe for success. But they're going to have to take it away from Baltimore. Baltimore isn't just automatically going to go there.
So Randy on YouTube says if they play the offensive scheme like they played the Bengals the first time and scored 44 points, they could run away with a win. Yeah, I would say if the Steelers score 44 points, they probably win this game. But that's why, Steve, I say the issues that they have, Pickens has to show up. The passing game has to show up, which means Pickens has to run his routes, whether he's going to get the ball or not. Run the route. There's a reason that on an offensive play call, you're supposed to run the route no matter what, because it's not just about you getting the ball. Sometimes it's about getting the other guy's attention.
Yeah, you're right. But the defense is got to be there first. Remember, the last 4 playoff games, the defense has given up 31, 42, 48, and 45 points the last 4 playoff games we've had.
That's all?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's gotta stop.
The defense has got to be there, and they got to hold Baltimore to definitely in the 20s. If they can hold them into the teens, then I think we got a chance.
Yeah, if they hold Baltimore to under 20 points, I think they win. But
hey guys, do you think any of our viewers are wondering whose preseason predictions for the Steelers turned out best?
Yeah, definitely. We got to go there.
What a great segue there. Let's what I want to do is I want to go to hold on a second here. I have all of this stuff queued up. Reviewing our 2024 regular season predictions for the Steelers. Go for it, Schwaber. Let's talk about this.
Well, somebody nicknamed the Grand Schwalbini, who knows all, got it exactly correct.
No, you didn't.
10-7 for the Grand Schwalbini. Now, you guys did pretty damn good as well. Mm-hmm. Both of you went 9-8. Just one game off. One game off the mark. Well done. Well done, man.
But I picked all the games correctly. The only problem is I had reversed when they would lose and win to Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. So I had them 3-3 in the division, but I got all 6 of those games wrong because I picked the wrong game they were going to win. But if you take that aside, the only other game I missed was the very first game. I picked them to win to lose in Atlanta, and they won. But I got all the other games right, so I'm taking the crown.
You did a fine job. You just weren't exactly correct.
Or are you taking the crown, or are you sipping the crown?
Oh, I'm putting the crown right on my head.
And Crown and Coke. All right. So there we go. Now let's move on to our NFL predictions that we do weekly to finish up the year. All 3 of us, by the way, were 2-1 last week. all three of us. So that means to finish up the regular season, Mark is the champion again, the Grand Schwabini at 33-15. Very, very
pretty dominant. Pretty dominant.
Steve 23-25, Chris 22-26. All I can say is that I feel good that I made a late season surge from absolute horrible, from a sewer-like situation to being at least respectable enough. Scott Clark on YouTube, they are cooked because they have a coach who seems to be happy just finishing 500. Thanks for being here, Scott.
Right on.
You're exactly right. So what are we going to do now? Of course, we're going to go on to playoff predictions. Playoffs.
We made it.
Let's talk about playoffs.
We did. We made it. Unbelievable. I want to remind you, you can always subscribe to the Sports Porch on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. Subscribe, hit the notifications button. That would be great. And I also drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Let's do AFC predictions. And you comment your picks for us. We're going to predict the AFC playoffs this weekend first. First game, we're just going to go in order of games. The first game is Saturday at 4:30 p.m. The Chargers at the Texans. You give us your pick in the comments. Grand Schwabini, you won the whole contest for the regular season, so let's start with you.
The Chargers. The Chargers.
Okay.
DJ Stroud is crying.
Yeah, the Texans are beat up. I got the Chargers in this one also.
It's funny. I did a show earlier. We're all three of us are going to pick the Chargers. Okay.
All right.
Well, we know why you're taking the Chargers. It's your man crush on Herbert.
It's my man crush. Absolutely. Jeff is picking the Chargers. Okay, the next game, Sunday, 1 p.m. Who'd have thunk that Bo Nix and the Broncos?
Randy's got the Chargers, too.
Oh, Randy, let's put his pick up there so everybody can see it. Randy says the Chargers. Okay, 1 p.m. Broncos at Bills. Grand Schwabini.
The Bills.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with the Bills here. Rookie quarterback. I like the way the Broncos have played. I mean, they scored 38 points against Kansas City's backup. That doesn't really count. But they won when they needed to. So I think it'll be closer than people think. But I like the Bills in this game.
I'm not afraid of Cortland Sutton.
I got the Bills as well. Jeff Paulus is picking the Bills, and Randy is picking the Bills. I mean, these first round games right now, this game is tougher than it looks. But Saturday at 8 p.m., Steelers at the Ravens. Your pick in the comments, Grand Schwabini.
Taking the Ratbirds.
I tell you what, I'm going off script here. I'm going to take the Steelers.
All right.
There it is.
Yeah. You know what? In the Philadelphia show, I was picking the Steelers, and then Rube got into my head, and I ended up picking the Ravens. But I'm going with the Steelers on this one. We got to George Pickens, show up. Jesus, show up.
Defense is going to do it. They're finally going to show up at a playoff game, and everybody's going to sigh a big exhale.
Yeah, let's hope so. Jeff Paulus says the Steelers, and Randy on YouTube says the Ravens. Okay, now let's move on to the NFC playoffs. Sunday at 4:30 p.m., you have the Packers at Mark Schwab's, the Grand Schwabini's Eagles. Packers at Eagles. I'm going to reverse it. We're going to go with HJ for the first pick. HJ?
Well, I like the Packers if Hurts doesn't play, but I think Hurts is going to play, so I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, there is absolutely in my mind no way Hurts doesn't play. I don't care.
Well, I mean, if he's still in concussion protocol, so they have no control over that.
Actually, you want to hear what's interesting? A little side note on this,
please.
I heard one of the Philadelphia reporters said, you have to be tested to get out of the concussion protocol.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even test him this past week. They didn't want to.
Right.
They just said, just take your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be fine.
That is pretty crazy, though.
I know, right?
He was going to sit anyways.
Right. Exactly.
That's why. Exactly. Why test him when just rest and whatever. Okay. Schwaber. Eagles, Packers.
The Eagles.
Okay, that's what I figure. I'm going with the Eagles as well. I mean, it's just we had this argument on our Philly show the other week. Who would they rather play? These guys are like, they'd rather play the Commanders. I'm like, no way, they'd rather play the Packers. As far as I'm concerned, we got a bunch of picks here. Randy says he may eat crow on his pick. Jeff Paulus is picking the Eagles, and Randy is picking the Eagles as well. Sunday. 4:30 p.m. Sunday. I'm sorry. Yes, Sunday 8 p.m. Commanders at Buccaneers. Who you got, HJ?
I got Baker Mayfield and the Bucs.
Okay.
I took the Commanders. I feel like Jaden's gonna do some magic, will them to one win.
Yeah, I feel like the Commanders are riding a high, and like I said in the previous show, even with Marcus Mariota, Scary Terry figured out how to catch a last-second touchdown to win a game. So
he is really good, by the way. McLaren's top notch.
Yeah. Nobody loves the Commanders. Jeff is picking the Bucs, and so is Randy. Okay, so this is the last playoff game of the first round of the playoffs. Is a Monday or Sunday night game.
No, it's a Monday night game.
Monday night.
Excuse me. Yes, you're right. A Monday night game. The Vikings at the Rams. HJ.
Well, I think this is going to be the best game of all of them.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. No, I think it is. I think it's going to be the best game. I think the Vikings are going to show up, but I do like the Rams. I think the Rams will come well coached. They'll have their offense high flying, and they'll win 35-31.
Okay.
I also like the Rams with a 37-35 victory.
We're not even picking the scores, but here's the thing about the Vikings that shocked me. It is they are the leading team. They lead the league in interceptions.
Yeah.
And the Rams are a pass-heavy team. So Jeff Paulus is picking the Rams. Randy's picking the Vikings. And following that script, I am also picking the Vikings. So we will see next week who reigns supreme.
Well, we already know Schwaber is going to win. So
yeah,
you already know that.
I mean, he's got the spirits, and they just come in and they go out.
The spirits, they lead me in the right direction. It's my path. Some people have the gift.
All right. Do we want to do a little HJ right now? Do you got something to talk about, HJ, or are we going to move on and call it a night here?
Oh no, we have to talk about the Penguins, dude.
I want a Beauvillier update.
Okay.
Well, Beauvillier was a scratch, as you know, last week.
Son of a bitch.
Okay.
But
first, I have to introduce HJ. So we are blessed to have Hockey Jesus on the podcast. Hockey Jesus, who preaches after every single Penguins game on the podcast, on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. You can hear him faithfully bringing you the truth with his sermon. Hockey Jesus, please.
Amen.
So Beauvillier was a scratch, but unfortunately they had an injury to Tomasino, so he's back. Tomasino really went into the boards hard. He's going to be out for probably 4 to 6 weeks. And if you've been following me, you know I consider Tomasino the glue guy, the guy that keeps all the lines together. And without him, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. But we're at the halfway mark, 41 games in. I say that the Penguins have to have 45 wins in order to make the playoffs. Right now, they have 41 points, which means they have 20 wins, 20 and a half wins, because you got that stupid loser point. Their record is 17-24, but because of the loser point, I'm giving them three more wins.
Question for you, HJ.
Yes, sir.
Will every game the entire rest of the month of January go to overtime?
I hope not, because they're playing on the West Coast. So if the West Coast games go in overtime, that means I'll be up till 2:30 in the morning watching these games. And that doesn't it seem like every game is going into overtime? Like they're getting a goal with like under 2 minutes left to send it to overtime. Well, they have the last 3 games. The last 3 games they've they've played overtime. Well, that's not true. They lost in they lost. Was that an overtime game? I got to look it up now.
Jesus, you should know.
No, it wasn't an empty. It was an empty net. So the last two were, though. And honestly, I hate the loser point. I hate the loser point. But when you're playing against Carolina and Florida, teams that you will never catch, it's okay to get a loser point from them because you figure you're going to lose them anyway. So they did get 2 points on this this mini road trip. But they got 5 games at home. They got to get some home cooking going on. They have to win at least 4 of these 5 if they want to stay relevant. They're playing Columbus, who they should beat, Edmonton, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, and Seattle. I mean, Edmonton's not playing great right now, and I just think they've got a good chance at beating them. They have to beat Ottawa. Tampa Bay, I think, is going to be the tough game. I think Tampa and Edmonton are the 2 tough games. If they can get a point out of one of those 2 games, I think they're going to be okay. But after that, they go 7 games on the road. 7 games on the road. And that's going to be the make or break for the season. They're still in it. I mean, theoretically, they're still in it. But here's where they're really falling down. This will be my last point. Goaltending still letting them down. And that's their second line with Gino as center has disappeared. They had 1 shot on goal the other night against Florida, and it was, I don't even know if it was actually on that line. It could have been somebody who was on the power play that made the shot. And they've got to do something about that. And that's what they've been doing. They've been playing Bavillier up on the second line. They've been playing Cody Glass up on the second line. They've been trying anybody up on that second line with Gino and Bunning, and nothing is working. He has no energy left. He has just hit the proverbial old man wall. You hear the rookies that hit a wall because they haven't played. Gino has just lost his legs. He's just got nothing left in the tank. And I think he's not going to make it through another season. I think this is going to be it for him.
Okay, so Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast after every single hockey game. You can catch him on the Sports Porch podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, and you can also catch him on YouTube at the Sports Porch podcast. Please subscribe, click the notifications button, and also leave us a review. I do want to get in some comments here by Mr. Steeler fan who joins us. He's back.
Mr. Steeler fan.
So I'm not going to put them all up, but I'm going to put 2 of them up. So in regards to playoffs, this is upset week. Broncos upset the Bills. Steelers upset the Ravens. Chargers upset the Texans.
Wow.
Now, he leads us all the way. AFC Championship at home with the Broncos. Sweet redemption for Russ. All right. That would be, fantastic.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. Maybe they bring back Tim Tebow, maybe the Steelers.
No. We lose to Tebow in the playoffs.
I know.
I have a dream.
I have a dream that you are going to introduce to us what we are watching. Schwaber, what is this all about?
What this is about is our way of giving back to our community, our people, you. You all have a tough time. Let's face it. We even do too. Sometimes picking out what to watch with streaming channels. There are so many choices, from HBO Max to Apple TV Plus to Netflix to Amazon Prime to Freebie to Vubi to Tubi to Ubi to Ubi. It goes on and on and on.
And Clerman.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell you whether something is worth watching or not. That way you don't have to watch the trailers. That way you can just know that the guys gave it the okay.
Yeah.
And it's time to sit back, pull up some popcorn, and enjoy the show.
Yes. Please don't throw up your popcorn after this particular show, though. Okay, the Grant Schwabini. I don't have one this week because I'm in the middle of 2 things that I'm watching. So,
hey, by the way, guys, do you realize just when you guys can't come up with anything, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got 12 on my list that I could give a review on.
Yeah, that's great.
I've got 3. I've got three.
Okay.
I got three.
Okay. Well, Schwab, you also have
what I'm saying is stop rewatching like 50 seasons of shows you've already seen.
It's because I'm rewatching. I didn't realize it's because I have a life outside of my house and off my couch. You know, I didn't realize that.
Were you shoveling snow today?
Yes, I was. I shoveled my mother's sidewalk and porch. Thank you very much. There you go. You gonna fly to Florida and plant some flowers for your dad?
Keeping Janice safe.
Got to keep Janice safe.
That's important.
Got to keep Janice safe. Oh, Pat Off Track is in the house. Mr. Still a fan. That's a hell of a lot of money line parlay. Also, the Chargers are road favorites. Maybe that's not a bad bet to make. Anyway, the Grand Schwabini, since he was so kind to introduce this segment, is watching.
Oh,
Squid Game 2.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will tell you is I didn't realize this, but Squid Game season 2 is broken up into 2 parts.
Oh,
So I did watch the first part, which was 7 episodes, and then we got to wait like 2 months, I think, till the next one.
That qualifies. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. I mean, for those of you who don't know at home, it's a Korean show that kind of got world famous during COVID when everybody was locked in their house and they had to start watching Netflix every single day. And so it got really popular and huge. And essentially what it is you have a bunch of people who are down on their luck. They owe a lot of money. They're basically, getting threatened by, gambling rings that they owe money to and stuff like that. So they're just desperate for, one big jackpot that could get them out of their troubles. Now, what these people don't realize is that they accept an invitation to play a game. And the game essentially is a bunch of children's games with the added element that if you lose the game, you die.
You're dead.
You basically get killed.
Okay.
And it's fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
It is
but
fun.
But you forgot to mention that they can at any time vote to stop the game.
Right, they can. But, it often doesn't go the way you'd think it would go because, people are like, we'll just keep going.
Yep.
I'm going to win.
All right, Grant Beanie.
But yeah, it's good. But season 2 is very good. I mean, it's certainly just as good, if not the same or better than season 1. Some different wrinkles to it.
Mark, did you watch season 1?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that I don't like about season 2 is I don't like how they're like trying to fight against the power.
Did you watch the whole season 2?
I did. Yeah, I watched all of season 2. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I thought. I mean, it wasn't a good choice. Let me put it that way.
Well, it was because the ones that are left in the game are still in the game, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't mind that. I mean, it's just. I mean, the only thing there's one thing about it that I find absurd, but I won't share it because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody.
Yeah, don't ruin it. You got to watch it.
Yeah, you got to watch.
It's really entertaining.
The Grand Schwabini recommends watching. First of all, you should probably watch season 1, but he is now watching season 2, Squid Game on Netflix.
Yeah, you have. By the way, you do have to watch season 1. You can't watch season 2 without.
Yeah, it's better. I think you could watch season 2, but you'll miss a lot of the.
You won't get things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Excuse me, Hockey Jesus. Something I want to watch here.
The Kings of Tupelo. This is on Netflix.
Yeah, it looks good.
Hey, Mark, this is a classic Klein documentary.
I'm Klein, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you why. There's this guy. His name's Kevin Curtis, okay? Grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi. And by the way, Tupelo, Mississippi, I've never been there. I never want to go there, but it's like the hillbilly town heaven, okay? And its claim to fame is Elvis Presley grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Oh.
I
So
thought
they
it was Tupelo honey.
No.
Okay.
Please dip
All
it.
right. Sorry.
So they have a lot of Elvis impersonators there, and this guy Kevin Curtis is an Elvis impersonator. However, he got with his brother, and they like do a dual Elvis act. Okay,
Mhm.
and that seems normal for Tupelo, and you're like, whatever. Well, I guess the act kind of failed, and he was running out of money, and he started having a family, so he started this cleaning service, and this is where things go off the rails. I mean, off the rails. He got a contract with the hospital, and he noticed there are a lot of decapitated parts laying around, and he started to inquire about
I'm all
them.
in. I'm all in.
He started to inquire about them, and he ran up against some power in Tupelo, Mississippi. And it just goes off the rails from there. I'm not kidding you. Like conspiracy theories, a guy who runs a Taekwondo center who they don't know his background, but he says he's like from the Department of Defense, and he knows so much about the world, and he's like, you don't even know half of this story about what they're doing with these parts. It goes off the rails. I had to watch it because I had to see how it ended, and I don't think there was a real ending to it. But
okay,
if you like conspiracy theories and you like Elvis, you will love the Kings of Tupelo.
How many episodes is it?
I think it's like six or seven.
Yeah,
It's a prerequisite 6 or 7. I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be a second part to this.
Is this kind of like a Tiger King kind of thing? Like,
well, I never watched Tiger King, but
yeah.
I'm betting yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. I actually didn't watch Tiger King until a couple years after it was good because there was so much hype during the pandemic. I thought to myself, there's just too many people watching Netflix. You know, like everybody's going to say it's good because they got nothing else to do. And then I watched it after the fact, and I actually thought it was pretty good. But
this was very bizarre. I mean, it goes in so many twists and directions. You're like, what is going on here? Like, you just can't believe it.
I can't wait. The Kings of Tupelo on Netflix. That is HJ's What We Are Watching. I will have one next week. I can assure you, boys. I want to remind you that I am working on Saturday night, so I'll be home around 9:15. I'm going to try to actually. I'm going to try to get off early to come home and watch the game. But hey, listen, man.
We'll be texting on the other channel. Don't worry.
I know, on the other channel. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And
do you like it when we do things like say, "Oh my God," and then
I can't believe that just happened?
Yeah, fuck with me every single game, every game. All right, guys, listen. Thanks for being here as always. We really enjoy it. We're glad you're here. You've been watching the Sports Porch. If you're watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram, all over the world. And of course, I'm going to drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts.
Let's go, Steelers!
And here we go. We'll be back on Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a recap of the playoffs. For the Grand Schwab Beanie, for Hockey Jesus, I am your technical director. That's right. I am your technical director, and I am out.
Jablonsk.
Jablonsk.